Welcome back. You're listening to Truth Connections. I'm your host, Catherine Buckaloo. If this is your first time listening, hit the subscribe button below and click the bell icon to be notified of future broadcasts. As always, thank you for joining us. Today's Truth Connections special shout-outs go to Stephen Roberts and his show, Cancel the Cabal, that is hosted at the People's Internet Radio Network. Stephen is producing and editing this episode for us. Also, Christina Esinas of As In Us Art for making the show graphic, and her podcast called Op Think, and our webmaster Chris at Cat and Code. Today's guests, Ronnie Renee Foster and Laura Lee Mystica, have been ghostbusting together for nearly 2 decades. They do remote spirit rescues all over the world. Having a variety of different skills gives them heightened abilities when collaborating. Together, they are paranormal partners who look out for each other and assess how to help clients with not just ghosts, but also myriads of strange phenomena caused by off-world beings, interdimensional beings, and even artificial intelligence. Their book, Got Ghosts, The Bizarre But True Tales of the Ghostbuster Gals, is a fun, educational tool to support those on a quest for knowledge about things that go bump in the night, and it also includes a do-it-yourself ghostbusting guide. Their book can be found at ghostbustergals.com. Ronnie has a BA in psychology and is an author, editor, intuitive counselor, teacher, national hospice trainer, and volunteer. Ronnie was also elected president of the Metaphysical Research Society for multiple terms. Laura Lee has a background in healing arts and teaches classes in reflexology, REM therapy, kinesiology, and directional non-force chiropractics. She develops electromagnetic debris sweeping and cryogenics. Laura Lee has also written 2 other books, Living in an Indigo House, The Heartaches and Victories of First Wave Indigos, and Cryogenics, which we did a previous show before. Cryogenics, The Simple Secrets of Human Alchemy. Welcome to the show, Ronnie, Renee, and Laura Lee. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
We are here and happy to be here.
I'm glad you are. You know, Laura Lee, you're one of my favorite people, and if you're one of my favorite people, Ronnie automatically becomes also my favorite person because
That's right. She's just
I know
right
you
in the
hang
club,
out with
isn't
top-notch
she?
people.
Yes, she's one of my favorite people, too.
I can see why.
I paid her to say that.
Yes, she did.
Before we begin, I would like first for you two to tell me the backstory on your nicknames. Ronnie Renee, how did you come to have the nickname Angel Girl?
Wow. Oh, that's a funny story. I'll try to keep it short. When I started waking up to things other than 3D, I started attending seminars and classes on things. And quite a few people said to me, "Oh, you have a connection with the angels." I didn't even know what that meant at the time, really. But it just kept coming up. I had a connection with the angels. And so when Laura Lee and I got together to work on our ghost busting team, she was teaching me how to use a chat room. I'd never been in a chat room before. I didn't even know what it was. And she says, "Well, you know you need a handle." I was like, "Well, I don't understand that. Just pick a name, like a handle." It's like, "Okay, how about Angel Girl?" So that's how it kind of came about. And it's nice, though, because I do work with angels and archangels and other various unseen beings.
You have a strong connection to the angelic realm.
I do.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And Laura Lee, how did you come up with your nickname, Witchy Woman?
Oh, because everybody calls me a witch, so just kidding.
Oh, they do.
Witches. I love witches. I've always loved witches ever since I was a little. And then after I left organized religion and started being able to really do some investigation, I started reading about it, and I'm like, well, that's me. I do that. Well, so, yeah, it just kind of evolved. And then the same thing when we were doing those chat rooms, and I actually, on my website at that time, I had a chat room. And so, yeah, there was Witchy Woman and Angel Girl that were in there visiting with people. And that's kind of how it all started. That's where we got our roots. It's almost been 20 years. We're almost going on 2 decades of working together, and we've had some.
And she looks like a witch.
And
she looks like a nice witch.
Look at me.
A good witch.
I was just going to say, she's a good witch. She is.
She is a good witch, and some people think I look like a cherub. So there you go.
Well, I like that. And I told Laura before, my grandmother used to call me witchy when I was younger, and it wasn't a degrading term. It was because I was born on mischief night, and I think she saw a little bit of something in me, you know.
She did.
What,
I can tell you she did.
What was that, Laura?
When did you say you were born?
October 30th.
Good for
before
like a half an hour before Halloween.
Wow. So you're an almost witch, huh?
Almost.
Nearly witch. Oh, that's awesome.
So that's kind of just why I wanted you to tell what the story was behind your names. You know, although I really like paranormal shows, it really bothers me when you see a film crew go into a house and get a call to help these people, and they get all their footage. They bring all these capable psychics only to leave the homeowners with no help or solutions. And I know.
Oh my gosh.
That
I know.
just ticks
That's
us
probably
off
why.
We get so upset. We
Right,
can't even watch those shows because they're so annoying. It's like, do you guys not have a brain in your head? Do you not think? Do you not have any compassion? What the heck's the matter with you?
It drives me crazy. And I know that was a lot of the backstory of why you wrote this book, to help people that need answers.
Exactly.
Yes, because really we call ourselves the Ghostbuster Gals, but really what we do is spirit rescue. And there's a lot of people out there that are uneducated about what ghosts are and why they're there. And so if they really understood that these people, because ghosts are people that have died, and they've died in some horrendous way, in lower vibrational energies, whether it's guilt or fear or anger or attachment or terror or sickness, whatever it is, they die in that lower vibrational energy, and they get stuck. The tunnel home, this is just my opinion, okay? Laura Lee and I are really different about things, but I believe that there's a tunnel home that opens, and it opens for everyone. But if you are in a low vibrational state, if you're in tremendous fear or anger or shock, your vibration's low, you don't get to see it, and then the tunnel closes, and then you get stuck. And so ghosts are stuck, and they're lost, and they're trapped, and most of them don't even know they're dead.
Especially if you die quickly and unexpectedly.
Right. They don't even know they're dead. It's amazing. And so they're stuck in this place, and sometimes for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they don't get to evolve. They don't get to do anything but be stuck. So we rescue them, and we send them home where they're meant to be. And so we wrote that book, Got Ghosts, so that people can understand.
We were going to have, and it's like everything else, all these good ideas that we have that just like fall apart. We were going to have a show, a reality show called 911 Ghost Rescue. And we had the website, the web address and everything. And I tell you what, all the good stuff that we try to do, it's like it gets totally sabotaged and totally ripped to shreds. And the people that were going to help us on that, just some bizarre things happened, and it went nowhere.
Sounds like it would have been a great idea, too.
It would have been.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they sent a producer. We had a producer come from California and spend 2 days with us, filming and working with us. And he liked it because when we do our work, you can tell something happened. In other words, if somebody has issues in their home and doors are slamming or cold spots are going on or they're feeling creepy in certain places, after Lorelei and I do our work, then that stuff's gone. So you can visibly measure the work that we do, and he thought that was pretty cool. So he took all that footage home, and they put together a sizzle reel. And for some reason, the sizzle reel was not such a sizzle. I don't know.
Sizzle reel.
It was a fizzle reel.
They put the worst of the stuff that we had done in that fizzle reel.
Left the good stuff on the cutting room floor, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know where the good stuff went. It just
And it's
fell
part
apart.
of that sabotage thing that Lorelei talked about. We have a lot of very powerful information in our book. Very powerful tools. And
tools that aren't in other books. We have things in that book that you won't find anywhere else. And after 10 years, after over a decade of this book being sabotaged, we finally figured it out. And we'll tell you what we figured out at the end. But we need to tell you some of these crazy stories that you would not believe. Okay, so right from the beginning, after we got the book off the press, and I sent it to the distributor, and this distributor never got 7 boxes. These are big boxes of books. Distributor never got them, but what I got back was the labels off of the boxes that said, "Oh, oops, sorry, we don't know what happened to the books. Here's your label back." And I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" And so, I multiple going to the post office and trying to run a tracer on it, and never found them. And how 7 boxes can just disappear, I don't know. But the labels, they found those. So that was just...
That's just a start. I mean, like I said, the book's powerful, but there are powers out there that don't want it out. I mean, we spent thousands and thousands of dollars hiring qualified promoters for our book. People that, from Hollywood. We spent a lot of money on those people. Got nothing.
The best that always get results. Right.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from a few people.
No, we hired a guy in New York and paid him a lot of money. And what he got us was an AOL News interview. That was it. One interview on AOL News. I was like, okay. We spent money in magazines, on internet shows. We ran a little banner ad on a very, very popular internet radio show, very popular. And he always gets results. And in 8 months, we got 0 book sales. 0. In fact, the webmaster felt so bad for us, they ran the ad again for free for several more months because he couldn't believe it. He says nobody ever advertises on our show and gets 0 results.
That's wild.
So we're not whining. Well, maybe we're whining a little, but no. No,
maybe a little bit.
It's just the point is we've been on so many radio shows. We've been on Coast to Coast, yes. We've been on the Art Bell Show. We have been on mega radio shows. And the amount of book sales that we get from those shows are minuscule, absolutely minuscule, because there is this overlying energy field that is keeping people from buying the book. Now, the last 2 shows before, we talked about this, because we usually don't even talk about it. And we actually got some book sales. We got, I think 13 book sales. It was like, whoa, that's very cool. Then we did the same exact show 2 months later, didn't talk about it, and got 0 book sales.
Well, I hope some of our listeners take the time to go to your website and get the book and learn about all the stuff you guys talk about, because it's not about ghost busting at your website. You have a lot of other tools to help people.
Exactly.
That's our purpose, is to help people. Take the fear out of dying. See, that's it. When you really understand what death is about, you'll understand there is no death. But then when you understand what ghosts are about, you'll have compassion. We have compassion for these ghosts to send them home. But the problem is there's other things out there that feed off the fear. And that's why they don't want our book out there, because we're designed to take away the fear. And then they get to starve. Okay.
So one of our promoters, and everything this woman does is a success, okay? She's never had a failure, right? So she was helping us promote this, and she started having shadow beings following her.
Wow.
And trying to scare her into giving us the books back. And so she did. And then she thought, well, screw them. I'm not going to do that. So she went and got the books back from us and started displaying them again, just to flip off these shadow beings. And she said, she called one day and she said, they really hate you. And I said, yeah, I know. And she says, no, you don't get it. They really, really hate you. And I said, yeah, I get it. And she says, no, I don't know if you get it. And I said, yeah, I get it. They hate me really bad, and that's why they're sabotaging everything. So then, God, we've just had, our files would come up missing. Like our book distributor had...
No, our printer. Well, the distributor
printer too. And the book distributor.
Both, yeah.
He calls me up one day and he says, are you messing with me? He's from the South. And I said, well, I don't know. What do you think I did? And he said, all of your files are missing. He says, and we have looked everywhere, and we've checked, on the name above yours and below yours, and we've done computers checks, and your files are gone. I'm like, I just said, well, welcome to the club. This is how things happen with us. I'm like, tell about the other
so that's
printer.
our distributor. That's a really good distributor. Now, our printer, this is the piece de résistance on this thing. So we had 345 books, something like that, left at our printers. We have a printer in Florida. And Lorelei and I are getting ready to do a show, so we thought, well, we better get some more books. We call up the printer, and they say, no, we don't have any files on you. It's like, excuse me?
Also, the whole file for the book?
We threw them out. We threw your files. We don't have any files. We've purged our system, and we don't have your books anymore. It's like, what?
They threw our books away.
They threw them away. They literally threw. And then they wanted us to pay to get more books printed. It's like, really?
Go somewhere else?
No, we will eventually, but we wound up getting, we kind of turned the tables on them because they were being real bullies about the whole thing. It's like, well, we haven't talked to you for a while, and we just threw them out, but that's illegal, and we found that was illegal. And they tried to have a lawyer send us a letter and scare us. Well, we don't get scared. We deal with ghosts.
We're Ghostbusters. We don't get scared.
Yeah. We ain't afraid of no printer. No lawyers. Yeah. So I wrote a letter back. And at that point in time, they sent us 200 books, and they wanted us to pay them, and we sent the letter back and said, no, until you give us our books back, we're not paying you for these. So it worked out. So we at least have some books. But think about the insanity of a printer just throwing your books out.
Without calling you or even trying to call. No contact, and it's not like they didn't have our address and Ronnie's phone number. And which is the funny thing is they acted like they had no way to contact us, but they sent the books that we ordered again to
us.
Ronnie's house instead of my house.
It was crazy. So it just gives you an idea that the book is powerful. And so we've had so many people say to us, I was going to order that book. It sounded really good. But something came up, and then I forgot. So that's why we appreciate you, Catherine, letting people know. It is a good book. You started it. It's a fun book, and it has a lot of good information.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. And I thumbed through a lot of it. Do you guys ever go to events? Do you get asked to speak at events? Or because I've been to some events, and some of those vendors sell a lot of books, like 100 books at a clip.
Yeah, well, until we kind of get this thing figured out and fixed, and we're working on it because it's better. But for one thing,
we were going to go to one event. Remember that we were going to go to one event and do a class there, and then they told us they wanted us to pay $600 to do it.
We had to pay them to go.
Yeah, we had to pay them.
We're not going to do that. Yeah, yeah. And Ronnie, remember at the local bookstore, we had our books at the local bookstore, and they told
we did
us,
a book
Ronnie,
signing.
Yeah. I'm telling you what they did.
So we have a local bookstore. We did a book signing. The books have been there for a while. We sold maybe, 7, 8 books or something. But all of a sudden I got a call from them.
With them. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a call, and they said, "We want your books out of here. Come pick them up, or we'll throw them away." It's like, excuse me? Yes, we don't want them here anymore. Out of the blue. It's like, what? And we have, people, we have a following here in our town. They've done news stories on us. We just had a recent news story done on us. So it's like people know, we're good at what we do and we're accurate. But that's just out of the blue. Come pick them up.
Maybe the book owner was some right-wing Christian that, thought it was evil or something. Who knows?
Well, they have all sorts of other things.
I
don't know. But then we've had things like computer crashes and stuff. In fact, I was working on loading the last show that we did on our YouTube channel, and when I went to log in, something switched, and I know Mercury's in retrograde. I should stay away from computers then. But instead of logging me in, it created a new YouTube channel with nothing on it. So I'm stuck now. I can't log in. I can't do anything. And this crap happens all the time.
All the time.
Is this a good time to talk about weird shit?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you could say shit on this show. I love it.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, WS. Yes.
Weird shit.
We coined that in our book. It talks about weird shit, and the acronym is WS. And there's different kinds of weird shit. There's weird shit, and then there's really weird shit, and then there's really weird funky shit, and then there's really weird scary shit. So there's degrees and different kinds of.
And that's why I call Laura Lee the queen of weird shit.
And I wear that like a badge.
She does. Because if you got weird shit going on, she's the one to talk to. I just stick with the angels and little old ghosts.
She has been in my corner more times than I can count, really. I mean, Laura Lee is great. She's a blessing.
So what questions do you have that you would like to talk about? You know what?
Go back again with the these television shows, that in talk about how people can begin to solve some of their problems. And an example would be like Amy Allen of the Dead Files. She's a good psychic, in my opinion. However, here is the advice she gave, the actual advice she gave a homeowner to accomplish after the film crew goes home, to get rid of their home, of these paranormal activities that were going on. She tells them to simultaneously have a psychic remove the entities, have a Reiki master cut all the energetic cords, and have a priest perform an exorcism on their son, all at the same time. How does a regular person supposed to follow those? They'd be lucky to find one valid to kill them.
So that's her recipe to get it fixed then. Okay. Well,
Right.
That's
yeah, ours is much easier, and I'll tell you why we finally figured out why our book has been so sabotaged, and it's because of two keys in the book that no other ghost book has. One of them is the Almoricite rock that you're familiar with, and this rock is interdimensional. We use it on all of our ghost bustings. We don't do a ghost busting without our clients having gridded their house or property or whatever it is that we're working with, and we send those complimentary to them. They're just little teeny tiny ones, but little doesn't mean they're not powerful. And this rock, since it is interdimensional, it helps us go in and out of wherever we need to go without getting trashed. Before we started using the rock, we got so tired we'd be trashed for 2 or 3 days after doing a ghost busting. And now with it's much easier, and we get to the truth because it is the stone of truth and justice, and it's just amazing. And as far as I know, we're the only outlet to get these rocks. My supplier, I think he died. I can't find him. He just disappeared. And so my stash that I have here is the only stash I know of, because he was a miner, and he got the rocks, and he gave me some, and then disappeared. So and he used to be my partner. It's so weird, we were just like real friends, and then I got married, and he didn't like my husband, and he had good reasons for that. But then after I divorced,
That was next.
that was husband number 2. After I divorced him, then I found this guy again, and he says, well, okay. He says, I tell you what. He says, I'll get you another supply. And he did. He gave, I got some more rocks from him, and then he just disappeared. And apparently the warehouse that these rocks were in burnt down. And nobody's seen this guy. I don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared too.
Wow.
So, as far
So the
as
thing
I
to understand about these rocks is that they're not from this planet. They're tektite, so that they're not like your average rock.
Right.
Very
Somebody
powerful.
did
Like a
test
river
it
rock.
before. I had found online when I interviewed Laura Lee before that somebody did test them, and they were on the Mohs hardness scale of like 5 or 6, because they are pretty shale. They do break apart.
They do break
But
apart.
somebody did test them, because I had somebody come on my page before and were like, these aren't real. This is such and such a rock. I'm like, oh no, it's been tested,
Yeah.
Say it was
It's,
some rock that was commonly known, but it wasn't.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's
Got a lot of different types of minerals in it, which is what makes it so unique.
Exactly. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, these rocks do things that, and I love crystals and stuff, but the rocks do things crystals don't. Like, for one thing, the rocks will clear your crystals. If you have crystals that need to be cleaned up, you put a rock by them and say, can you please hang out with this guy and clean up this mess in there? And they do it. And you come back and you look at your crystal, and it's like, oh, nice and sparkly again. So this rock is one thing, and the other tool we have in the book is the cryogenetics egg. And I'm pretty confident that nobody else has that egg. The egg is actually the spiritual aspect of the rocks, and it has recently upped its game big time. It does things now that we didn't even dream of 4 or 5 years ago. In fact, just recently when Ronnie and I have been doing ghost bustings, if there's a ghost that's like really unruly or an alien ghost or something, and we've got it quarantined, instead of trying to figure out where it goes, the egg just takes off like a homing pigeon and sends it where it's supposed to go. And it makes our life and our job so much easier, because once we can get everything sorted out and everything egged, then it just takes off and does its own thing. And Ronnie, remember you said that you saw one like going back and forth? It was rocking.
Oh, I see all sorts of things, but people need to understand what the cryogenetics egg is. It's a sacred geometric form that, like Lorley said, it's the rock is the physical aspect and the egg is the spiritual aspect. So it's not something that you hold in your hand. It's all done psychically. And when the first time we ever realized the power of the egg is when we did a ghost busting up in the border of Nevada and California. And we were at the Amargosa Hotel and Opera House. And that place is about as haunted as you can get.
Oh.
There were so many ghosts there, it wasn't even funny. And the lady, the manager, had, we were up there actually doing a television show called Out There, I think it was called. So we were up in Pahrump doing a television show, and they asked us if we wanted to go see this, I call it the Hotel California, but it was the Amargosa. And, the story's in the book, so I won't give a lot of detail, but we were standing outside in a circle getting ready to do this busting because the manager was desperate. She said, look, we've had 3 or 4 people here trying to help the ghosts. She was able to communicate with some of them, and they wanted help desperately. And she said, nobody's been able to do it. So we took it on, and we were in a circle, and we found that there was one ghost that was kind of controlling everything. He was like a tyrannical monster ghost, kind of. And I would say before we started the circle, we were touring through the back, broken down walls, and it was a pretty freaky place back there. It was all torn down. It was old. We walked through the rubble. And as we walked into one room, I heard, as loud as I could hear in my ear, "Get out!" And just as I heard that, the manager said, uh-oh, somebody's really mad that we're here. So she could hear it too. Laura Lee, not so much. Her antennas went down.
Rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, which is usually me, but she fortunately didn't get to hear that. It was horrible. And again, the manager heard it too. But so it was a bad, big bad ghost, so to speak. So we formed a circle out in this area, just out in the desert. It's like desert out there, across the street from the hotel. And we psychically tuned in to this big bad ghost, so to speak. And he was angry, and he didn't want us to get his other ghosts. There was hundreds of other ghosts there. And so Lorley, God bless her, because we were having a problem. She had the forethought to put him in one of these cryogenetics eggs. And she put the egg around him, and he was screaming and frothing and cursing, and it was vile. And she just kind of took her hand and brought it down and went, night, night. And as he went to sleep, we all smelled the most foul, sulfur type of smell. It was nasty. Everybody smelled it. And again, we're in the desert. There's nothing around. Terrible. But
It's usually
she was able.
to a demonic entity, isn't it?
What's that?
That's usually attributed to a demonic, isn't it?
Right, the sulfur.
The first time we ever smelled it, I don't know. It was bad. Either that or eating Taco Bell. I don't know. But it was bad. And because she was able to do that and anesthetize him, so to speak, and put him to sleep, we were then able to work with all the other ghosts. There were ghosts in the hotel. There were ghosts in the area we were, like a tent city we saw, because apparently a plague had come or a flu had come early 1900s, and there were people just sick and walking around. We could tell by the clothes that they were wearing. It was horrible. So we were able to then release all of those other trapped spirits that were under the control of this nasty, tyrannical being.
Great.
Because she used the egg, and now we use it all the time. So once we got the rest of the ghosts gone, which is another long story, but it's in the book. It's fabulous.
Yeah, but we got to tell them the story about that lady. Okay, so I'm holding this portal open, and I'm outside the hotel. And Ronnie and a couple of the other ones are inside the hotel telling all the ghosts, okay, it's time, don't worry, the big bad boogeyman is gone, you can go now. So she's ushering them.
And we set up a portal. And then my portal inside attached to the portal outside where Laura Lee was. But the cool part about that was, I've never felt this before in my life. We were in a closed-in long hallway. There were no windows, no nothing. But as I was telling the ghosts they can go and setting up the portal, we all felt the ghosts moving past us. They just would whoosh right past us, and we had goosebumps, and our hair was standing up on the back of our necks. And as they whooshed on by, we just felt it all happen. And then there was one, I had the male ghost. He didn't want to go. He says, I can't go. I can't leave my wife. I said, but you got to go. I can't.
Ronnie's there. I'm holding the portal open on the outside, and there's this woman, and she started to go into the portal, and then she stopped, and she turned around, and she just standing there. And I'm like, okay, and I'm trying to get everybody else in, and she's just standing there looking back at the hotel. Okay, Ronnie, you tell me the rest of the story.
See, and we don't know what each other's doing. We have no idea, because I'm inside, she's outside. And this man was just frantic that he didn't want to leave his wife. He loved her so much. And I said, you have to go through the portal. Trust me, you'll find her. And as he finally stepped into the portal and connected with her portal, then Laura Lee saw that woman that was right with her see him and go off together.
Right.
It was trippy. And we didn't know what was happening.
Held each other's hands and went off. She was so happy to see him, and they held hands and went into the portal together.
Beautiful. Yeah. And until after we compared notes, do we even know what was going on? So very, very cool stuff. Then we got all the ghosts gone and cleaned up the place, and then we were still left with that tyrannical bad boy. And so
I like that.
Yeah.
He's a bad boy.
So
what you gonna do when these Buster gals come for you?
Exactly, bad boys. So Laura Lee woke him up. And as she woke him up, he was ticked off and angry and screaming again, and we could smell the sulfur.
Yep,
it came back.
Yep, back.
stinky sulfur, rotten egg smell. Blah. And so
I'm like,
now
what are we going to do? And then Ronnie's like, I have an idea.
Yeah, what are we going to do with this guy? Because normally, for me, when we cross somebody, we don't force them. We can't make them go through the tunnel. And most of the time we've learned to bring back something that's meaningful to the person. If they were religious, Jesus will always come. We always work with Sananda, Jesus, or we call him Yeshua, because his mother did. So we work with Yeshua, Archangel Michael. When we've done Native Americans, we've worked with, white buffalo calf woman.
I think it's important to do that, because you have to get what they're familiar with to get their attention.
Exactly. Something that's meaningful for them. Well, this guy didn't care about anything. Forget Jesus, forget Archangel Michael, forget any of that stuff. He couldn't care less. That's the kind of guy he was. So I got a brilliant idea. It was from one of the first ghost bustings I'd ever done at the Glover Mansion here in Spokane. I got the idea to bring his mother back, because mothers are just so powerful of an energy. And what I found was this child, what happened was, or this person, his mother died when he was only 10 years old. And they loved each other very, very much. Well, he was left with a father who was an alcoholic ass soul And he was beaten, and he was left hungry, and he was left in tattered clothes, and he was not cared for. He was treated worse than a dog, worse. And it turned him into a really rotten, tyrannical person. And when he saw his mother come down the portal for him, all that vile, I mean, he looked horrible, spittle coming out of his mouth. You know, he looked like a demon. All of that just suddenly stopped, and his whole demeanor shifted, and he literally became a little boy again, soft and quiet. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. And he and his mother, they hugged, and it just brings tears sometimes. And she was able to take him across. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. So then, once she got him through the portal, all of a sudden we smelled roses.
That's
Every single person smelled roses in the middle of nowhere.
That's a very divine sign.
Yes, Mother Mary. A lot of times with Mother Mary, when we have to cross children, I will always call them Mother Mary, because there's something about Mother Mary and children. And that divine roses.
Stuck. That's the worst. When a child is stuck. When a child is it's the worst.
Oh, Catherine, it breaks our hearts sometimes. And we've had quite a few children that have been stuck. And the book talks about some of it. And they did a movie about us. In our college, we have Eastern Washington University here. And one of the film students wanted to do a film on us, and filmed us doing a ghost busting. And it was one of the ghosts was a child that got kicked in the head by a horse. And so we got that on video, which was cool.
Well, I thought that it was important to mention, you know, what the process you guys do and how the book tells people how to work with things, because there's far too many people who have nothing but money to burn, who buy paranormal equipment, and they go do EVPs, and they think they know what they're doing, but they don't know how to protect themselves.
Exactly.
So
God, that's so true.
It's dangerous.
And one of the funny stories that you mentioned, EVPs, Catherine, that we had Dead
This
Famous.
Is really good.
Dead Famous was a TV show, a British TV show, and they were coming to Spokane, and they wanted to find the ghost of Bing Crosby. And they wanted to go to this theater where he used to hang out. And they asked us to come. They wanted to have us on the episode. And so we came in, and they said, well, why don't you walk around this theater in the basement and tell us what you feel, and walk backstage. Tell us what you feel. So Laura-Lee and I we're walking around, and we're going, oh, there's something over here. Oh, wait, there's something over here. Oh, and here, this is terrible. And by the time we were done, they just looked at us and said, well, that's exactly where our EVP meter picked up paranormal activity. And it's like...
And we're like, cool.
They were testing
we didn't
us,
even,
but, you know.
Yeah, they were totally testing us.
Yeah. So they decided to keep us in the episode.
TV shows will do that. They would try to test you, sneak around it, but you caught them.
We did, because we don't need that stuff. We don't need the physical tools, because we have our psychic antennas, as Lorelei likes to call it, but our intuition, our sense, and we've been doing this long enough that we know how to tune into that kind of energy.
You both
the
have
difference
different
is,
types of psychic ability. Go ahead. No, you finish, hon.
No, I was just going to say the difference is, like you were saying, Catherine, they find the ghost. Oh, we have a ghost. Whoopee, yay. It's like, yeah, ghosts are everywhere. So what? It's what they do afterwards, and they just leave them there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, makes me
That's
crazy.
so pathetic. That's so inhumane. It's so disgusting. It's like, and then they think they're all that in a bag of chips. It's like, oh, aren't we cool? We found a ghost.
We're going to be famous.
Yeah, right.
And again, I think a lot of it is ignorance. They don't understand what a ghost is. Sometimes they think it's just an energy field that has no feelings, no nothing. Just a you know, like I don't even know what they think it is, actually. That's something that it isn't.
Let's get into
it's not real.
What they're caused by, right? You're absolutely right. No, most hauntings are caused by energetic residue, like trauma, dark rituals. There can even be land-based entities, nature spirits, Native American, like we were talking about before. What are some of the types of hauntings that you have come mostly across? What has been what places are most haunted in your opinion?
Oh,
Hospitals.
churches, hospitals, cemeteries.
Mostly
oh
cemeteries, but cemeteries because everybody thinks they should go there. But I find hospitals way more haunted than cemeteries.
Well, Laura Lee,
people mostly get shove-ins when they're in a hospital when they've gone under anesthesia.
that's interesting. Because they're not protected because they're weak.
No,
Exactly.
and they're traumatized.
Yeah, and we have. Yeah, and
Go
Laura
ahead.
Lee mentioned shove-ins, so people understand shove-ins. You know, they're called possessions, but we call them shove-ins because it doesn't have that religious connotation. But it's when somebody, a ghost that's stuck, finds an opportune time to shove themselves into a person, whether because they're having anesthesia and they're not protected, like you said, Catherine, or because they fall down and they hit their heads and it's a
out.
weak moment, or they're in an accident, or they're falling down drunk or in drugs. It opens up an opportunity for that ghost to pop in to that physical being, and then it's like, like they're sharing that body, and it's
time
the personality changes.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a timeshare, but
Yeah,
the personality changes.
Understand that the more drugs you do and the more you drink, that opens up your energy field to get attachment.
Oh, yeah.
That, sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And there are attachments that attach to the outside of our auric field, and then the shove-ins are the ones that really get inside. I mean, there's a bunch of fascinating stories in the book on shove-ins, where one was a teacher. In fact, she was my friend's mother, and she was in an accident, and that momentary hit where she was suddenly shocked, it allowed a shove-in to pop in. And right after that happened, she started drinking bourbon. She started eating bonbons. She didn't want to exercise. I mean, this was a woman that was very, very active and maybe would drink a beer once in a while. Bourbon and bonbons. I mean, seriously. So when we were able to remove that, I was able to remove that and send that shove-in packing, her life returned back to her normal life. She never had a bourbon again or a bonbon.
It's a funny story that I can share with you. Laura Lee knows about it when I was in the hospital once. Remember, Laura Lee, back a couple years ago, I told you what happened? I was having some abdominal pain, and I didn't know what it was. So, my mother went with me just in case they wanted to hospitalize me. We thought maybe appendicitis or something like that, And I was laying there waiting for the doctor in the hospital gown, and just on my left leg, on my left foot, just below my toes, like on the ball part of your foot, but on the outside, something grabbed my foot, like to get my. And I turned to my mother. I said, "Something just grabbed my foot." She said, "What?" I said, "Something just grabbed my foot." She goes, "Oh, that was your father." I'm like, "No, it wasn't my father. I wouldn't known that was my father. I just didn't. It didn't resonate with me at all." And as soon as we both acknowledged it, it grabbed my foot again. So we just laughed it off, and my mom knows I'm weird like that, and she's open to the idea of ghosts. But I came back and I told Laura Lee about it. Remember, Laura?
I do, but tell me how it ended. This is fascinating.
Well, you had said that we went back energetically to that place, and we crossed the guy over. It was somebody that was in an accident, was in his 30s or something.
Okay, I'm starting to remember. Okay.
He came to me because he knew I would pay attention.
He knew that you would have the means to help him.
Yeah, and later down the line, you were the means to help him cross over because we had discussed it. So that was just a funny story about
and
the hospital.
After that, he never grabbed your foot again, right?
No,
after we crossed
never
him,
did.
He
Never did.
held it again.
I love it. That's one of the reasons that ghosts make their presence known in houses. They can manipulate electricity and electronics and things like that fairly easily. I mean, some ghosts can, slam doors and throw things off shelves. It just depends on the ghost and the level of their involvement. But electricity is usually a key thing. Light bulbs will burn out. Lights will flicker. Recording devices go down. We did a show on the campus of was South Carolina. I think it was called Clemson. It was the University of Clemson, and they had a radio show there, and they were going to have us on, and all sorts of electromagnetic things going on. We had to postpone the show because craziness was happening. And the producer of that show didn't kind of believe in most of this stuff until after they were trying to get us to record the show, and they had so many crazy things happen. He became a believer.
Well, and then remember their printer just started printing out random stuff.
Printer went crazy. Everything went crazy over there.
Yeah,
and they had a lot of ghosts.
And water running, limestone quartz, electromagnetic storms that can heighten paranormal activity because they draw from them.
Oh,
in fact, we notoriously ghosts hang out by the fuse box and where the water heater is because of the electromagnetic fields that are around that. So that's why basements a lot of times are really haunted, because ghosts apparently like to hang out there. Maybe it's more maybe they feel more at home there or something. We never did quite. I don't know. They just like it there.
They get juiced up.
They do.
Because they can tune in. They can tune into the electromagnetic fields of all that stuff. And the basements are dark, and they just feel comfortable down there. But sometimes they hang out in the kitchen. I mean, it just really depends.
What a lot of people don't understand also is there can be drawn to chaos, clutter in a home.
Oops, then my house would really have a lot of ghosts.
A lot of arguments can, feed paranormal activity. If people are,
okay. So yes, you're exactly right. Drugs, arguments, things like that, what will happen, it's kind of an odd thing. It'll set off some negative energy, like a ball of negative energy. And then as a universal law, energy attracts like energy. So then that ball gets bigger and bigger and bigger of all this negative stuff. And then that feeds the negative arguments and the activity, and it just kind of goes back and forth, and they feed off of each other. So and sometimes there's ghosts there, and sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's just this negative ball of energy. And that negative energy is pretty easy to dissipate and get rid of. I mean, in the book we give you tools for that, but smudging, where you light sage.
That was my next question.
Or what?
That was my next question. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So sage happens to be a good tool, but the key thing to remember for any kind of tool that you're going to use, the most important thing to remember is intention. You have to have the right intention, or just an intention, the intention to cleanse and clear the entire area. Because I've had so many people say, well, I smudged the place and nothing changed. Well, did you think about what your intention was? Did you put it out there? No. Okay, then. Try again with intention.
I think I heard you guys, I think it might have been on Ryan Gable's show. Shout out to Ryan Gable.
We love Ryan. Yeah,
Ryan's definitely a good egg. I like Ryan.
He is a good egg.
But
he just had a baby.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, awesome.
But I think I remember on that show you guys were talking about smudging works temporarily for
ghosts.
When the smoke goes away, you need to smudge again. Maybe that's why I burn sage in Palo Santo on a regular basis. I don't know.
Yes, but see, the thing is, smudge will not get rid of a ghost, and holy water will not get rid of a ghost. It will move them outside for a while, and then they come back. That's the difference, and that's why sometimes, and holy water is very powerful. Don't get me wrong, very powerful, but it will not send the ghost home. It just goes outside. It squats at the neighbor's house for a while, and then comes right back in. Yeah.
But
so smudging is good.
It works on energy blobs and things like that, but it won't take care of a ghost. So it's good to smudge, and it does clear the air so that you're not continuing to fight and all of that stuff. So it's good. It's good to do that.
You could smudge yourself.
Yes,
too.
And I like to get spurts with essential oils and spray them all over, because that really lifts energy and vibration and helps you
even get with
Frankincense is very good, very good.
I like that. And even certain incense, like I use Nag Champa temple incense. The vibration of that is very high, and so that will dissipate negative energy with intention again.
Friend who swears by that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
So that's very, very, so keep doing that. But if you're doing that to get rid of a ghost, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not the right protocol. They can't, it doesn't open up a portal. It doesn't.
They've got to be crossed over, or they're not going to.
Exactly.
Yeah, not just moved, out to the street. It's got to be crossed over. So that's very good. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something people probably don't understand. They think that will clear everything, and it will for a while, and then the ghosts will come back because that's what they're used to. And you don't know. It's like your house might be their house, and they might be ticked at you because you're in their house and moving stuff around.
Yeah, especially when people do construction, it's to stir up paranormal activity. If there was one.
Oh, you hit it on the head, Catherine. Absolutely. That's a lot of times the ghosts will be kind of content, but you start messing with their house and painting or building or doing, and the activity comes out like crazy. They get angry because they think it's their house and they think they're still alive, and they get angry. I mean, we had one of our first clients here in town. He was trying to get his mother's house fixed up. She died, and he wanted to sell it. And every single contractor that he had would quit. I mean, paint cans would go flying, terrible things would happen. People would almost fall off the roof. It was really bad. And we happened to know him, and he asked us if we would do a clearing. And I think you can see this on our YouTube channel, that Channel 2 News from our local news actually filmed us working there. But we found his mother there. She never left. And she was there with her sister, and she was causing all the havoc there. Terrible.
I'm having a good time doing it.
Yeah. How dare you sell my house? Get out. Get out. Ghosts say that a lot, by the way.
They do. That's a word of choice.
Catchphrase. Yeah, I love it. So Laura and I cleared that house.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to finish it, we cleared the house, and he went over and put a real estate sign, for sale sign on it. And by the time he drove back to his house, which was literally only like 8 minutes away, he got a call and he sold the house. So that's how important it is to get that energy clear.
And we've done a lot of work on people's houses that they haven't been able to sell, and we've had really good statistics on that. Yeah.
That's another thing that drives me crazy. These paranormal experts tell people to sell their house, and then they just sell it to somebody who doesn't even know what they're in for.
That should be illegal.
Should be. It really should be.
Yeah, it's not an integrity.
No.
You don't want to leave your problem to somebody else. It's not fair. It's not right. And integrity is the bottom line.
Sure.
These ghosts need to go home.
I think anybody who buys a house should have a house clearing. I know I would.
Yeah. Really. Exactly. If you have the carpets cleaned, you should.
Make sure energy
no ghosts in there.
For sure.
Exactly.
And write it off on your taxes. I just had my house cleaned.
Well, you did.
That's funny.
Laura Lee, you're one of the only other people besides Amy Allen from the Dead Files that I've heard talk about an alien entity as a ghost. Now, I know there's many different dimensions and many different types of entities. What are some of the entities that you've come most across? What types of entities?
Golly, it seems to always be something new. You just think you have it figured out and something new happens. But I run across aliens trying to mess with people all the time. And
interdimensional, or are they just like a spook?
Yes, and sometimes, I've dealt with some that even died and got stuck. Just all sorts of different, very interesting things. But I think what you're probably getting to is that story about, this was 2 years ago, Ronnie, and I started having very strange behaviors. I started eating ice cream like it was going out of style. And I don't even like ice cream that much. I mean, it's okay, but it's not my favorite. Give me a chocolate instead of ice cream. So
she was like an addict.
Sudden, I was.
No, she was like an addict. She had to have 2 or 3 tubs of ice cream in the house. And I'll never forget this. She came to visit me and she says, "I'm going to bring ice cream." And I'm thinking, really?
That's pretty random.
It's very
random. I'm going to visit and I'll bring the ice cream.
She toted a thing of ice cream over here. It's like, and we don't live close. It's like, whoa. Yeah, so she was really
ice
possessed.
cream and yogurt and
yogurt.
Anything that had cream in it, like whipped cream, and like I say, lots of yogurt. And I had to have this in my house all the time, and I had to have at least 2 or 3 tubs. Now, I got the nice organic stuff, and I tried to make sure, I did my research to make sure the cows were being, handled nice. But it was just weird, and and then I started gaining weight, like bad. And then my heart started going in arrhythmia. And then I had to, sleep sitting up. If I was sleeping flat, my heart would go out of rhythm, and I couldn't breathe. And I thought, and I was taking vitamin E and doing all this other stuff, and I thought, okay, this is just beyond stupid. What the hell is going on here? And so I scanned myself, and I had a shove-in. And I thought, well, that's logical. But it wasn't a normal shove-in. It wasn't a ghost. It was a baby cow. But it wasn't even a ghost baby cow. It was a digital artificial intelligence AI shove-in of a baby cow in my body and auric field. And it was shoved in and it was locked in. And so this this artificial intelligence baby cow always wanted to be fed, right?
Yeah.
And she really, I mean, it was she was obsessed with it. But what really did it for me, what I really knew something was wrong, was when we had done a show and there was an EVP that showed up on this show. It just showed up out of the blue. Yeah. And so the host of the show sent us the EVP and said, "What do you think he's saying?" Well, the minute Laura Lee, I heard it, and I heard he said, "Killed me." When I asked Laura Lee, "What do you hear?" She goes, "Yogurt."
Oh my God.
Yogurt. It sounded like, and I thought Ronnie was like loco weed. I thought, Ronnie, how do you killed her? It absolutely said yogurt. That's anybody that thinks anything other than yogurt is loco. This is what this guy is.
Yeah, and it said killed me.
Well, a lot of people don't realize you can get entities that way too, especially with electronics. I mean, these cell phones are like modern day scrying machines.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And let me tell you the rest of the story, and then we'll go into this other weird stuff. So I was able to quarantine. I had my rocks, and I had the egg help me quarantine this artificial intelligence AI cow and take it out. And then every time I do any of these, I always get the intel or the information, the data. So I had the egg download the data and put it into the rocks for future reference, and then sent that egg packing. And then I cleaned myself. Then I cleaned out the trauma and did all that stuff. Whenever you remove something, you want to clean out and put yourself back together again. So I put my figure 8 racetrack back in order again. I've gotten rid of my chakras. I have this figure 8 head, heart, and loins racetrack that I got going again and spinning, and I was breathing better. And I went to the freezer and I picked out all of the yogurt and I took it to the neighbor, or not the yogurt, well, yogurt too, but the the ice cream. I took all the ice cream and the yogurt and took it to the neighbors because they've got lots of kids, and they thought it was great. And I haven't bought an ice cream since then, and it's been 2 years, and I don't even care. So this
Isn't that amazing when you think about it?
If this would have kept going, I could have died, and that was what it was designed to kill me in a very weird way. Nobody would have known. Nobody would have known. Oh, it's some alien AI cow in her that shoved into her. Nobody would have known. They would just said, oh, she had a heart attack and she died. And so this weird stuff happens, and if we're educated enough, we can learn how to manage it and not let this stupid stuff, take us out. Because, there's a lot of weird stuff out there.
And just to go back to the hospital situation when I didn't finish that when I was in the hospital.
Okay, go ahead.
They couldn't find anything wrong with me. So when I was working with you afterwards, I put the rocks on, because I was still in pain. I put the rocks on the area where the pain was, and we used the egg, and the pain went away within like 2 minutes. It's gone.
Isn't that amazing?
I love it.
It is amazing. I wouldn't have
love
believed it
it.
if I was there myself. If it didn't happen.
I know you don't. It's almost too amazing. I know. I these rocks and the eggs have gotten me out of more situations. I tell you, I've had some real. Ronnie, should we tell this story about my stab wounds? It's really not funny, but it's really funny.
Not funny. It's so not funny.
Several years ago, I had this voodoo curse on me, and I know for a fact that it was this cult that I had been entangled with, and they were not happy with me because I was trying to help one of their members get out. So I all of a sudden I started feeling these 5 places in my chest, and it was on the right side. More the right side, and it felt like I had been stabbed. It's like literally, when you get cut, like a paper cut or something, how it stings. That's how it felt. And I kept checking to see if there was something there, and nothing. You can't see anything. So it starts getting worse and worse, and then it starts hurting my ribs like they were bruised. And then it got so bad, I had a stick-shift car, and I couldn't drive it without somebody with me because I couldn't, and it didn't have power steering. I couldn't turn the steering wheel. It got that bad. And I knew that I was in trouble, but I wasn't quite, I tried to clear stuff, and I wasn't sure what to do, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and it was affecting my breathing. And I was with Ronnie. We were in her basement, and she said something really funny, and I started to laugh. I said, "Oh no, don't do that! Don't! No, it hurts! It hurts!" And then she said something else, and that made me laugh. And then pretty soon we're just laughing like hysterically. Rolling on the floor, running to the bathroom, almost not making it. I mean,
crying.
We did that. Tears running out of our eyes, and everything that we said was funny. All we'd have to do is look at each other, and we'd burst out laughing. And at first I said, no, don't do that. It hurts to laugh. And then I thought, bingo, that's what you need. That's going to help this. So we were laughing all night and making fun of the voodoo doo-doo. And we did that for like 2 hours, and we were just trashed after. You know how when you laugh, it just like makes you really tired. We were so tired.
But
laughter is good medicine.
It is.
It is good medicine.
It lifted this curse. When we went to bed, the pain in my chest was like 75% better. And then it just kept getting better day by day by day, and then it went away. So laughter, this sustained, and it was intense laughter. This sustained, intense laughter cured me of a really, really nasty, horrible voodoo curse. And later I realized that the 5 wounds on my chest were in the shape of an upside down pentagram.
Oh wow!
So there was definitely some bad mojo going on. So yes, to everybody that's listening, get your laughter quota on. And when things are really creepy and scary, start laughing, because it's not going to hurt. How could laughter possibly hurt if it could take that horrible thing away? And I don't know what would have. I don't know what I would have done if. Because who do you go to? Where are you?
Yeah, who are you going to call?
Yeah, that's right.
Who are you going to call?
You got to constantly keep your own, energy clean, because you're dealing with these entities. It must be difficult.
Yeah,
it is.
We use the egg every night, both Ronnie and I.
Every night,
clean ourselves out in our houses and our chickens and our animals, and
I use prayers of protection every night. Yeah,
every day.
Prayers of protection using the egg, because when Lauralee was, we were actually re-editing her book, Cryogenetics, The Simple Secrets of Human Alchemy, which is also a very powerful book with powerful tools. And we were re-editing it. We got nailed, psychic attack after psychic attack, every frickin' night. It was unbelievable. But what happened was it gave us the opportunity to come up with new protection protocols and to kind of tweak the protection protocols that we already have. So, it served an advantage, but it was tough stuff.
Right, and so we were actually able to put those protocols in the book, so it was great. So on some level, we let it happen so we could put this in the book. But what are the chances of getting psychically attacked every single night? You know that somebody or something is on your tail, and you must be doing something right, or they wouldn't be so.
Yeah,
so
wouldn't be nailing us
nailing you on your case like that. So
Yeah.
and the same with our book. If we have been looking at this, it's like, what is the deal? Why us? Why is there's so many it's like you can't even say the amount of stupid that has happened to try to curtail the book. No amount of that kind of stupid is normal.
No.
And it's because of the tools that we have. And
the egg and the rock.
The egg and the rock, and it takes the fear away and helps people be empowered. And
Absolutely.
I don't know of any other book out there, because I thought, there's lots of other ghost books. Why don't they get blackballed like this? And it's because they don't have what this one has in it, and it's authentic tools. And
I think it's written very easily for the listener or the reader to understand how to take care of it themselves.
Yes, and for children, this is a book you can read to your kids. Yeah.
Right.
And it's designed to take the fear away. I mean, there's some pretty heavy-duty stories in there because we've seen some really heavy-duty things. But it's written lightheartedly and a lot of humor, because humor is what helps us through everything. And what we'd like to do, Catherine, for your listeners is, if they can, think about this and push past our curse, our sabotage on our book,
right.
And they get there and they buy that book from our website, we will include a free set of grid rocks. So anyone that goes ahead and gets that book, we will give you a free set of grid rocks. And they're very powerful tools. You put them around your house or your room, and it's designed to stabilize the energy.
That's well worth buying the book to get those rocks.
Just to get the rocks.
Well, and the rocks are teeny tiny. They're about as big as, a little bigger than a grain of sand, but that's all it needs. They're little, but they're mighty. You can get the same amount of juice from a little teeny tiny rock like that as you would one that's as big as your fist. So it doesn't matter that it's small. What it does is connects to the home office, so to speak, of the rock, and it's just as powerful as a great big one. So so we will do that for your listeners. But right when you check out, leave us a little note so we know that you're from this show.
And just put Truth Connection somewhere so they know to send you the rocks.
Exactly.
Yes, or send us an email if you can't. People can't figure out where to write that. And that's okay.
Why don't you tell them your websites and stuff now, and your YouTube channels, so they know where to get everything.
The YouTube channel,
You know what? Here's what you can do, because you know what? I am computer illiterate, kind of. And Lauralee's always like, go check out this video, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know how to do this. But I just go to YouTube, I type in Ghostbuster Gals, and bam, all of our videos come up. And our Art Bell show is on there, which, I thought was pretty cool. And we'll put this show on there, which will be really cool. And so, YouTube, just type in Ghostbuster Gals. And then for the website, it's ghostbustergals.com. Now, if you want, just for the book, because we have a separate site for the book, which is pretty cool too, and that's ghostbustergals.com / capital book, BOOK .HTM. Did I get that right, Lorelei?
Yeah, and you know what?
Right.
I checked, and you don't even need the HTM anymore. It's just /book.
We're going to have it in the YouTube comments too, so people can go down and in the YouTube description, and we'll have it there, and I'll put a link to it on the YouTube comments for them as well.
Bless you.
Excellent. That will be
excellent.
Thank
you.
And I will mention that they'll get the free rocks too.
Yes. Our website is kind of funky, and it's retro, and it's cute, and it's and and people always say, "Oh, that's not a good business website," and we say, "We don't care. It's fun." So you can scroll down and see all our.
Like if you when you go to it, you can just see Angel Girl and Witchy Woman. That's just so us.
It looks like us.
It looks like us.
It's the tall witchy woman and the little angel girl.
The little
it's
angel
very,
girl.
Very cute.
We like it.
Now, Ronnie, I find your work as a hospice volunteer fascinating. And I know you've probably come up with some pretty amazing stories of people crossing over. Is there any that you care to tell?
Yes. Well, I became a hospice volunteer after my sister passed away. And I was there, and we had hospice for her. And I wasn't really sure at the time, because this was a long time ago before I got into, this is like 1997, so before I was really into this stuff like I am now. And I had asked a person that had a hospice group, I'd asked him if my sister had passed, and he said yes. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized if I did hospice work myself, I can make sure that these souls that I'm working with cross over. It was kind of part of it. Just felt like a new calling for me. And we worked out of the VA hospital because those people, those military people, nobody wanted to work with them. And so I formed an organization here in town and worked out of the VA and trained. I became a national trainer. So now I go around the country and can train hospice. And what we basically do is teach people how to have a loving presence at the bedside of somebody that's making their transition. So I became a transition specialist or transition expert and knew how to help them cross and get through the barriers so that they can go home and not be scared. There's so much fear. There's just
especially
so much
with the
fear.
PTSD. I can see that being even more heightened to guys when they have PTSD.
Well, exactly. And not that I want to get into religion, but some religions tend to put so much pressure on people that they never feel they're good enough to go to God. They don't feel they're good enough, and then they get stuck. They think they're going to hell, and they're just scared, especially those military with the PTSD, and because they killed people. I had a lot of one vet who was World War I and World War II. I mean, he's old, but they just go through that fear. I think I'll try to make this a short story. It's hard. My favorite hospice story was a man named Ed. He was younger. He was in his 40s, and I had worked with him. And when he was getting ready to cross. He could just tell. So every other night, I would go in there, and I would spend the night there. That's just what I did. I would come in at midnight and just stay in their room or hold their hands, because the nights are the worst for people that are dying. And with Ed, we called ourselves, the Twilight Brigade. We're midwives to the dying, because really what we're doing, Catherine, is we're birthing them into the other world where they came from. We're birthing them back, So it's like birthing a baby. So Ed was on his last night, and I'd been working with him, and he said to me, I want to go. I want to just die right now, please. And I went, Ed, you're only at 2 centimeters. You can't die now. He's like, oh, okay. So I continued to work with him through the night, and, there's a lot of story to that. But another 2-3 hours, it's like, oh, God, I really just want to go. I want to just die. It's like, Ed, you're only at 5 centimeters. You can't go yet. It's like, And so to to the morning now. It's like, I don't know, 6, 7 in the morning, and I just went to get the nurse to get some more pain medicine for him. But when I came back in, I saw that, he's ready. So I took him in my arms, and I said, Ed, 10 centimeters. Start pushing, baby. And I held him in my arms with so much love and just held him as he made that transition, that when he died, he left the biggest smile on his face, like a smile of ecstasy. And, that was the gift that he gave to everybody in that hospice ward, that smile. Because, death sometimes is really ugly, and they don't usually have a huge smile on their face when they die. But Ed left that smile on his face, and everybody that came in, because we all loved him the best, they would come in and they saw that smile, and it made everybody so happy. So, yeah, that's my favorite story. Yeah,
is it true? I've heard stories about when people are close to dying that, they see angelic beings or loved ones start to show up the veil. The veil gets thinner.
Oh, it sure does. And that's why when, as a hospice volunteer, too, you can feel the veil getting thinner, and you can feel the company in the room. And I've had people shouting out they're oh, look who's here. And all I say is yes. You always just respond with them and support them. Oh, absolutely. I have because I did it for like 15 years. I have a lot of hospice stories, and I love training, and it was just a gift for me to be present with them. People say, how do you do that? They're going to die. It's like, yeah, I give them 100%. I know they're going to die. Every one of my clients I know is going to die, but I gave them everything of who I was for that last whatever it was, and it was a gift. And, yeah, I would cry, and I'd feel bad when they passed, and sometimes I couldn't go to the hospital for weeks because I was so struck by their passing. But in the end, I just felt good. It was like Christmas for me every day. When I would walk in a hospital
waiting for you on the other side because of that. I'm sorry. I said I think you'll have many people waiting for you on the other side because of the work you do, as they'll be there to welcome you, help them.
I think you're right. I really believe that when we cross this world and we make our transition, that anybody and anything that we've ever loved or who have loved us is going to be there. That includes all of our pets. We have a lot of pet stories and pet ghost stories, but they're all going to be there. When we make that transition back home, our pets that have loved us and that we've loved will be there. It's a celebration. A happy, happy thing.
Right, unless they're on another mission and they can't make it, then they'll have to come later. I know I've got some pets that might be on.
Yeah, I think they can pop in for a few minutes.
I have a cousin who I believe is clairvoyant. She's never said that, but she's seen my father when she comes over here sometimes, and she was trying to be there for a relative crossing over, and she saw 4 angels that were like on each corner of the bed. And then when the time came close, there was like the main, I want to call it the boss angel. This main angel came at the head of the bed right before the person crossed over. It's pretty amazing. Have you ever seen any angelic beings at people's bedside?
Oh, the angels are always there. I could feel them. I can always sense them when they're there. And the interesting thing about death also, not that this is a show about death, but I also believe that people pick the exact moment that they die. They have that much control. Now, you wouldn't think that in an unconscious body, but trust me, that spirit is in there and has total control of when that body is going to take its last breath.
You can look at people that have been together for their whole life, and the wife goes, and then 6 months to a year later, the husband goes because they just want to be with that person,
Absolutely. And, I've seen it where there's the families doing vigils around the clock, and they all just step out for a minute to just go do something, and poof, the person passes. And then they feel bad, but no, the person's passing because they think it's easier to have the family not there sometimes. I mean, my sister died at 12:02. Now, why is that important? because 1202 was my father's birthday, December 2nd. And 1202 was her password to everything. All her banking, all her computer stuff was 1202. And that's exactly the time she passed. So
Amazing.
right to that second, they can do it.
For sure. Well, about ghosts.
Some water too.
Ghosts.
Yeah, about ghost. What a lot of people don't realize is if somebody is a jerk on this side, they're not going to all of a sudden become an angel on the other side. They're going to be a jerk on the other side. They're going to be a ghost jerk.
Oh,
so
gosh,
true.
you got it right. That is
you don't
so
change
right,
in
Catherine.
a twinkling of an eye. That doesn't happen. No.
A lot of people think they become saint-like just because they cross over. No, they were a jerk in this life. They're a jerk on the other side, too.
They do retain that personality. Exactly. Now, it's not the same when they actually cross because, I have clients that their, grandmother will come through or their father will come through, and they've already made that transition and they've crossed through and they've done what's called a life review where they get to review their entire life and what kind of effect they had on other people and what effect, other people had on them. And then they continue to evolve on the other side and they come back, so that they come back a little nicer. In other words,
different. Yeah.
A little, their perspective is different. And so a lot of times they'll apologize for some of the things they did. But if they're stuck between the worlds, they do retain 100% of the personality that they had here. But this is the important thing to remember. Even if it's little grandma that's stuck in the house because she didn't cross because she loved her house so much, it doesn't mean it's good to have her around. People have to understand there's no such thing as a good ghost, even if it's a kind, sweet old lady, because the electromagnetic field of that ghost is different than your electromagnetic field. And what it does is it causes issues in the physical body. It affects the immune system. It affects the energy level of people. So if you've got a ghost hanging around and thinking, oh, well, it's a good ghost, no, it's not good for your health. Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And they do drain you. It's like draining your batteries. If you've got a bunch of ghosts in your house, you can take all the vitamins in the world and you're not going to, it will help. It's good to take vitamins, but it's not going to fix the problem.
For sure.
Yeah, ghosts are a bigger problem than what people think.
No, they don't realize it.
They don't
But it
know.
is. And that's why, again, we wrote the book.
That's right.
Millions
and
of ghosts.
that's why it's not spelling, because it was so important.
Yeah, exactly. Because there are entities out there that feed off of that fear. That's what they want. There's fourth-dimensional astral entities that feed off the fear. There's other crazy, weird shit entities that feed off the fear. And they want to get you scared. And the more scared they can get you, the more they can eat. So your job is just laugh and smile. And, once you read the book, you have power now. You're empowered because you understand it better. And so, yeah, they don't want the book out. They don't want to starve.
That's right. They don't want to go on a diet. They want to gorge.
They want all that chaos and negative energy.
We're not going to give it to them.
No.
Nope.
Is there anything, lady, that we didn't mention that you think you want to mention before we go?
Golly. Can you think of anything, Ronnie?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Just know that sometimes pets can be ghosts too, and if you think your pet didn't cross and is still hanging around, you might want to help them cross too, because they can get stuck, and sometimes they stay because you're so sad that they're gone. I've had, and there's stories in the book. There's lots of pet stories, so read those. And for me, one of the most profound ones was my fish. And the fish story is really a fishy story, and it was a wonderful story. I love that fish.
Sounds like a fishy story to me.
It does. So yeah, I guess in the end, just read the book and get savvy, and then tell your friends about it and get them savvy, and then nobody's afraid of ghosts.
Yeah, and if you want to, try to do your own ghost busting, and you've got the little rocks, and you're having some questions or some issues. Yeah, just let us know. We try to support people as much as we possibly can. And it's way cheaper to buy the book and get the little free rocks than to hire us to do a ghost busting, because we charge a lot of money, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy So that book is the first step to really getting yourself empowered in your own life and to help you out with things. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Laura Lee and Ronnie.
You are
I
welcome.
appreciate your time.
It was a great show. Thanks
And
for
I wanna-
Yes, it was so much fun connecting with you, Catherine. It was wonderful.
You. It's nice to finally connect with you, too. I've heard a lot about you over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
All good
thanks.
stuff. All good stuff.
Oh, good. It better be. I'm Angel Girl.
And mention your website one more time, if you would.
Yes, ghostbustergals.com. And the book is ghostbustergals.com/capital BOOK, capital book.
I think that's
And
great.
now that I'm looking at my chickens out here, they're looking at me going, "Where's my treats?"
Oh, we just
Clearly
have
not
to,
both have
before,
chickens.
Time to go feed
before
them.
we leave, we have to say we're working on another book, and it's called Cluck Off: The Bizarre but True Tales of the Ghostbuster Gals Chickens.
Yeah, cluck off.
I've heard
It's
of
gonna
those
be awesome.
stories already.
It's
I think
gonna
it
be
will
great.
sell a lot better than the
I
other
do
book.
too.
Yeah,
We're not going to mention the rock or
not
the
gonna-
eggs in that book.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know.
No.
All right,
Thank you
everybody.
so much, Catherine.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Everybody, until next time, be good to each other. Thanks for listening.